Hurricane warnings in the Azores as Gabrielle approaches. Former major hurricane Gabrielle has lost a category but is still a category 2 at this point at 36.2 degrees north, 46.4 west, steaming towards the Azores at speed, crossing the Atlantic at this time. Well, as of 3 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, it was located here, right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, moving easterly or 80 degrees at 32 miles per hour, 51 kilometers per hour, a pretty zippy speed for a hurricane to be moving, with estimated wind speeds of 105 miles per hour and a pressure of 963 millibars. Well, the storm has been on a gradual weakening trend, and that will continue as it heads towards the Azores. However, we still expect it will be a substantial hurricane by the time it gets there. With this big speed that it's got right now, it won't be very long until it does arrive. Thursday night is what we're expecting. Here's the latest with the wind quadrants extending out 185 nautical miles on that southern side, quite large on the southern side of the storm. It is currently still 1,374 kilometers from Flores on the Azores, 1575 from Horta, 1699 from Terceira, 1846 from Ponta Delgada, and 3279 from Lisbon on the Portuguese mainland. Well, the storm is moving quite quickly at this point, so as mentioned, those numbers do sound big, but it will be arriving by Thursday night, and by that point we'll be seeing some significant winds. All of the Azores are under a hurricane warning at this point, and hurricane force winds are therefore likely for all of those islands Thursday evening into Friday morning, depending where you are. Further west will receive the worst conditions first, and then further east later on, with the storm accelerating through the islands. Winds of up to 90 miles per hour still expected, 145 kilometers per hour. Elevated winds are expected for the coast of Portugal in Gabrielle's extratropical phase by the end of the weekend. It will turn post-tropical very quickly after passing through the Azores. Sea surface temperatures are pretty poor. There it is, moving through by the end of Thursday into Friday. That's our forecast track there. So that pretty much takes it through the southernmost Azores, and then landfall near Porto in Portugal by the time we get through the end of the weekend, moving inland over Portugal and Spain by the time we get into the early part of next week. Once again, to stress, that is extratropical long before the Iberian Peninsula landfall, but it may still have storm force winds by the time it gets there, so pretty important. 105 mile per hour winds right now. National Hurricane Center's last advisory had 110 miles per hour. Their 2 p.m. update will be out pretty much as this update goes out. In fact, it's in front of me. 110 miles per hour is what they're still going with at the 2 p.m. advisory, so we're just a little bit lower than that right now. Satellite estimates also pretty much up there too, towards the higher end of the Category 2 range. That's the National Hurricane Center cone from 11 a.m. Not much will have changed at the 2 p.m. update. They just do the position fix, and they're expecting a landfall further south in the Iberian Peninsula as a weakening storm to a depression on the southwestern tip of Portugal. Well, tropical storm force wind probabilities there as well. Those islands, of course, the Azores, all in on those tropical storm force chances. For the mainland, though, it's nudging up towards 10%. There's the GFS forecast model over the next 7 days or so, and it shows the storm still having a significant presence by the time it gets to Portugal, making landfall there, still with winds of 45 to 50 miles per hour. It blows through the Azores first of all. That's obviously where we're going to be most concerned about. The strongest winds look like they're going to be on the southern side, and the most extensive wind field as well will remain on that southern side through the Azores, and then it will get a little bit more well-rounded after it turns post-tropical, and those wind fields will disperse and widen. However, looking at the simulated radar reflectivity, it looks like it's going to be the northern side that will be exhibiting the most amount of rainfall, breaking through the northern and central Azores and then on towards the coast of Portugal later on in that run. Also want to point out that second hurricane there towards the left-hand side of the image, possibly affecting Bermuda later on. That system is pretty much certain to form at this point, and we'll be watching that one as well. But significant rainfall moving through the Iberian Peninsula and obviously obviously with the terrain over there as well, could see some significant flash flooding issues. Obviously with a storm from the tropics, they will generally carry more rainfall than what Europe is used to. Now, looking at the total rainfall expectations then, these are final totals. Don't forget, sometimes it's the rain rate that causes the flash flooding, not necessarily the total amount of rainfall that falls. However, we are expecting maximums on the Azores of around 4 inches, 100 millimeters, but there's a little area there of 5 inches just offshore, and by the time it moves through into Spain and Portugal, possibly getting up to 2 inches of rainfall, maybe a little bit higher than that in localized areas. That would be 50 millimeters. And then taking a look at the sea surface temperatures, well, these are air temperatures. SSTs are a little bit better than this, but I can tell you around the Azores it's about 22 to 24 degrees Celsius, so certainly those sea surface temperatures are dropping off very quickly as the storm makes its final approach to the islands. And then obviously after that there's no chance of Gabrielle holding on to any kind of tropicality. It's a matter of time, if it is still a tropical hurricane by that point, that it will lose that status. Well, here it is on satellite imagery right now, and it's been moving through. This is rapid scan imagery over just a 4-hour period, and you can see how far it's moved over that period of time. And it's moving quite clearly just a tad north of east, but certainly a fast moving storm as we now overlay that infrared on top of this visible as well. Very pretty looking still at this point, even though the eye that we were looking at a couple of days ago is pretty much shot to pieces in there. It's going to be a very fractured eye wall structure that remains inside Gabrielle. And here it is looking on another little bit of a wider shot on geocolor. Goes 19, of course. The storm has been relatively small throughout its whole life, and that is going to be continuing throughout this whole period here. It's not a huge storm. Here it is on star imagery, moving nearly due east as well. And it's the northern side that's producing the highest amounts of convection. The southern side, maybe 1 or 2 little bits of dryness there. Looking on the Force 13 imagery now, which you can catch for all worldwide tropical cyclones, force13.com/satellite. You can see the storm's progress here too. Looks like heavy wind shear possibly on that western side as well, but that convection still blowing up decently near the center, and the storm is holding its own. Certainly if that 110 mile per hour update is to be believed. We're just slightly lower than that with 105, but clearly still a category 2 and a decent strength 1, and is likely to only weaken slowly over the course of the next 24 to 48 hours. Once it moves through the Azores, we will see much quicker weakening, probably down to tropical storm force by the time 12 hours after it passes the Azores, possibly. Here's a wider shot showing where the storm is in relation to everywhere else. Atlantic Canada there and the northeastern United States still warning about rip currents over the next day or so. And this is a wide shot of the whole North Atlantic there as well, showing those 2 little systems down there in the central and western Atlantic. The one right in the middle of the picture that's looking a little bit like Gabrielle did when it started out, by the way. I'm surprised the National Hurricane Center haven't called it a tropical storm based on that, because when they first started naming Gabrielle, it looked absolutely appalling. But that system very much looks like it's going to become a significant hurricane as well. Nada is also a hurricane, category 2, moving out to sea in the eastern Pacific, struggling a little bit right now actually. Gabrielle category 2, that system as well behind it. Ragasa moving inland over southern China now, category 1, and barely weakening very quickly now. Buoloy strengthening as it approaches the Philippines, 65 mile per hour winds, and Neoguri struggling now but still a high-end tropical storm.